What's up guys, it's Dave and welcome to my channel. Make sure you drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. Now, watch this. Ugh. What's going on everybody, this is Dave and welcome back to another manager experiment today on the channel. Now today we've got a slightly interesting one, as you can tell by the title of the video. It's going to be Francesco Totti as AS Roma manager. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump onto Totti's profile, and as you can see him here, he's 38 years old. He's still playing for the club, obviously in real life, and he's been at the club, since 1991. A ridiculous amount of time, really. We're starting him off just on his manager contract, and he's got absolutely incredible stats. Probably one of the best stats we've seen in all the manager experiments we're doing. So really, he should have a very good idea of what's going on, especially with his knowledge, anyway, of Roma and Italian football in general. Italy is the only place he's got any scouting knowledge of, but he's got fantastic stats such as he's 17 in man management, he's got 20 determination, all the stats highlighted are what's kind of perfect to be a manager, and he's got 15 plus in all of those, which is absolutely incredible, or 16 plus actually. I'm quickly going to jump onto his history. Of course, he was a forward at Roma. He wasn't prolific as such, but he was always, a very skillful player. Probably played more, as a centre forward. Had a couple of years where he grabbed 20 plus goals. But the amount of games he played, he was never a regular as such again. But he's been there, ever present. He could have left Roma if he wanted to, but he's decided to stop, and that's what's made him a true legend for the club. Now, his preferred formation is a 4-2-3-1. He has a passing playing style, a general coaching style, an adventurous playing mentality, a standoff pressing style, a mixed marking style, and his second preferred formation is 4-4-2. Now, he's only got a contract up until the end of this season, so it'll be interesting to see if that gets renewed. And his current reputation is 1.5 stars. Now, Roma as a club, if we click on them, for some reason it still says Totti's the captain. I don't think that's updated. I'm sure it will update itself. Their media predicted to finish third this season, and Totti is classed as a legend at the club. They are in the Champions League as well, which is going to be interesting to see how well they can do in that. But we'll skip forward the first season, and we'll see how Francesco Totti can do as manager of AS Roma. So we skip forward a whole season, and now it is time to see how well Roma have done this season in the Serie A under the management of Francesco Totti. Now, they have finished third in the league. Juventus have gone and won it. AC Milan actually finished second. Didn't expect them to finish that far ahead. They finished 8 points ahead of Roma, just 3 points behind Juventus. But Roma did okay, 4 points ahead of 4th place Inter. And that means, they've secured another Champions League place next season. Average rating wise, there was De Rossi there, he finished second in the whole league, and Florenzi got the second most assists in the league as well. So what we're going to do is check. Totti is still the boss. Now Daniele De Rossi has been promoted to captain, and now Rajan Angolan is the vice captain. Maram Pjanic is now classed as the key player of the club. What we're going to do first is click on Totti, and he has been given a contract extension for another 3 years now, so he's done very well on that front just there, and his reputation has gone up slightly as well. So first thing we're going to check is who he brought in and his first term as manager, and he spent £24.75 million, only bringing in £1.4 million. Now, players he let go, a couple of boys went out on loan. I never realised actually they had Ponce, who's a very, very good striker on this game. Never realised I had him, so they've loaned him out. They've released Bogdan Lobon, who I'm not too familiar with as a goalkeeper. He's gone to Burnley in the end. And they sold 2 players. The first one is Vasilis Torosidis. I knew how to pronounce it, just couldn't get my words out there. He went to Toulouse for 1.3 million, and Ashley Cole went and he left for £100,000. 2 players he brought in, both one for 12.25 million and the other for 12.5. Gerson from Fluminense, who was an attacking midfielder, played 22 games this season, had a very decent average rating. The 19-year-old Brazilian looks a very, very solid player. And Iago Falque, the ex-Spurs player, he's come in, not played, well, he's only started 2 games the whole season, not doing brilliantly there. He came in from Genoa as well. I think he was actually on loan, and then they've signed him, so they've brought him in. In all the rest of the other competitions, going to be interesting to see how well they do in the Champions League. Finished third in the league, of course, knocked out in the first knockout round of the Champions League. So they got through the group stage, but then lost out to Chelsea. And then they lost in the first round of the TIM Cup, which is a huge, huge upset, really. We'll check their schedule, see what sort of happened there. So we'll start off with the Serie A and see how they did in the league. Very decent form in places. Had a good piece of form here. See their biggest result for the season, if there is one, 3-0. So they didn't have any real, games where they destroyed teams as such. But a pretty decent season, fairly consistent along the way. The Champions League, their group was Ludogorets, PSV and Real Madrid, arguably having one of the best teams in the world in their group. Probably would have expected them to get out of that group, to be fair. Drew to Ludogorets in the first game, beat PSV, then lost a double against Real Madrid, which is no real surprise. And then they beat Ludogorets 5-0 and beat PSV 2-1. And then unfortunately they lost to Chelsea 5-1 in the end on aggregates. So knocked out of that competition. And the TIM Cup, they lost to Frosinone Calcio, I think that's how you pronounce it. They lost 2-0 away. They started a pretty strong team as well, which is why it's a real surprise. Calcio, they are in the Serie A, so they're in the same division as Roma anyway. Check the place of the senior squad. Nangolan got the most appearances this season, very closely followed by Florenzi, Digne and Castan. Most goals this season was Nangolan, which is pretty shocking if you say. The striker, such as Seydou Doumbia, was probably their main striker, possibly. Probably missing Totti quite a lot going forward. That's possibly where he needs to strengthen the side. Most assists was Florenzi, he got 12. Most man of the matches was Daniele De Rossi, and the best average rating was De Rossi, closely followed by Pjanic and Kevin Strootman and Raja Nangolan. So we're going to skip forward another year. Francesco Totti's first term in charge was okay, finishing third. That's where they were predicted, to be fair. So we'll skip forward another season and see how well he can do. But in my eyes, he does need to sign a striker, someone who's going to fire them to glory. So we skip forward yet again another season, and it is now time to see how well Roma have done. Wow, they've won the division, they've won the Serie A with Totti in charge, beating Juventus by 2 points this season. Their goal difference wasn't brilliant compared to Juventus's, but they've done it, got one more win than Juventus, where they dropped points by getting a draw. The only player that kind of features in the top 3 of any of the stats down here is Miralem Pjanic. He got 12 assists this term. Now, Francesco Totti is still in charge. His reputation has again grown slightly, and very good season for him. His first title in charge. Transfer-wise, he must have brought some big players in. Wow, he did. He spent just under £55 million, but he did bring in 30 million now. Wow, he actually sold Daniele De Rossi to PSG for 10.75. Never would have expected that. Manolas went to Barcelona for 13.5, arguably 2 of their best players. Victor Ibarbo went to CSKA Moscow after a year out on loan. Carbonero went to Sassuolo. William Van Queer, I think that is, went to Spezia Calcio. Maicon left on a free. A lot of the players left on frees and loans too. Best players they were bringing in was Sven van Beek from Feyenoord, Mo Salah from Chelsea, Edin Dzeko from City, a bit of a big purchase, Kim Jin-soo from Hoffenheim, Lorenzo Insigne from Napoli, Gilberto from Fiorentina, Manuel Lanzini from Al Jazeera in United Arab Emirates, Pim Meyer from AZ Alkmaar, as was Fred Herkens. He also came from AZ Alkmaar. A couple of players in on frees, which were Christian Alvarez and Alfredo Talavera, and Divock Origi and Adrian Rabiot both came in on loan from Liverpool and PSG respectively. He spent a lot of money, but it has clearly worked this season. Now, captain is being promoted to Nangolan and Strootman has been promoted to vice captain. In Champions League, they were knocked out in the group stage and knocked out in the first knockout round of the Europa League. So continental competition-wise, it wasn't brilliant for them. And TIM Cup, they got to quarter-final this season, lost out to Lazio. Now, focusing on the league quite a lot, they were predicted third. And as you can see, they did not start off well at all. And they did kind of only had, well, finished first. They were top for quite a while actually. I will check though on the schedule, see how they did it. And we just took the Serie A. Now they lost their first 3 games, which was against Sampdoria, AC Milan and Juventus, which, you know, quite difficult first 2 or 3 games at least. Anyway, and then look at that, they only lost 1 up until, you know, jeez, up until April. What a season that was. And it wasn't even if they were drawing many games. They only drew 4 in the whole of that. That is such a solid season. Brilliant season for Roma. Champions League had Galatasaray in the playoff. They had a extremely tough group. Man City, Real Madrid and Lyon. No surprises they couldn't get out of that. They only won 1 game, that was against Lyon. They got a draw against Real Madrid. Drew against them again. First round, they had the exact same team. They had Frosinone Calcio, beat them 3-0 this time, but lost out on after extra time against Lazio. And in the Europa League, they lost on the away goal rule to Valencia. Very, very unfortunate indeed. Best players this season for Roma, though. We'll check. Most appearances was Sven van Beek in his debut season as a centre-back. Clearly, Manolas's replacement after he went to Barcelona. Pjanic actually made the most appearances, but he came off the bench in 3 games. Top goal scorers Edin Dzeko. This is what they needed. They needed a striker who knew where the net was, and Dzeko has provided them with 15 goals this term. Most assists was Miralem Pjanic. He got 12. Gerson got 9 in the end. He was a young lad they signed last season. And the best average rating this season was Strootman, closely followed by Adrian Rabiot. We'll be interested to see if they sign him up permanently, and then Pjanic and Florenzi. Now, what a fantastic, successful season that was for Francesco Totti's side. We're going to skip forward another year. We'll do about 5 years in total to see how well he can do in charge. That's the second season done, and now we'll move on to the third season. So another season completed here with Francesco Totti as AS Roma boss. Now, as you can see, the Juventus and Napoli jobs are insecure, which is quite interesting. Massimo Allegri and his side there, so they finished second. Does that mean Roma have won Serie A yet again, just by the 1 point this season, losing just 6 games and drawing just 6 games again? So a very successful season there. If we look at Roma, Florenzi with second most assists this season yet again. Same captain and vice captain. And transfer wise, we'll check first. And they only spent 15 million this season, bringing in 11 million. First, we'll look at the players they've sold. A lot of players went out on loan. Juan Iturbe, who I don't think was a standout player in the first 2 years of Totti's reign, he went for 7 million. Iago Falcao, who they spent so much money on. They spent 12.5 million on him. They sold for just 2.7 million to Villarreal. He's done okay there, but not starting enough games. And then the final player was Christian Alvarez. He went to Genoa. Now, I brought in quite a few players. Salcido came in from Espanyol for 7.25 million. Another striker who hardly even played. A lot of money wasted there in my eyes on Salcido. Then they brought in Andrea Balic from Hajduk Split, Jefferson from Botafogo, Nicola Lili from Cesena, Renzo Nicolai from Albino Leffe, Fernando Peña from Alianza Lima. The team as a whole did very well. Media predicted second this season, but they finished top. They were up there for a lot of the season, and it took them till the death to actually go and win it. Knocked out in the first knockout round this time of the Champions League against PSG. They won the Super Coppa and the TIM Cup, so a huge, brilliant season. Won a treble of Italian trophies, which is huge for AS Roma. Check the schedule though. Of course, we're in 4 competitions this season, so we'll have to have a quick look at all of those. So Serie A first. A lot of the losses and wins were dotted about a lot more this season, so they didn't go on any crazy runs like they did last year, but they won the first 3. They must have been, they didn't really drop any points. Juventus, did they get the double over Juve this season? They beat Juve once. Well, Juve didn't beat them at all actually, so a very good season on that front. Champions League had Basel, Dinamo Zagreb and Porto, so a much easier group this term. They only lost the 1 game, won the other 5. That got them through, but then lost 5-2 on aggregate to PSG. In the TIM Cup, beat Genoa in the first round, beat AC Milan in the quarter-final. In the semi-final, they won 2-1 on aggregate against Empoli, and then beat Sampdoria 2-0 in the final. In the Europa League, of course, they weren't in it this term, and in the Super Coppa, they beat Lazio after extra time 2-1 to secure the Super Coppa. Very solid season for Totti's side. Now, how did his team do? Most appearances this season were Gerson and Sven van Beek yet again. Top goal scorers Manuel Lanzini, Dzeko just behind with 13 and Gerson with 11. And thank God I'm getting a special mention for 10 there as well. Most assists was Florenzi with 14, Pjanic got 11. Most man of the match was Pjanic with 6. And then Florenzi and Gerson got 5. And then 7.9 was Nicola Lelli, but Gerson had a very solid 7.48 rating in his 51 games whilst playing. He looks like he's going to turn into an absolutely incredible player. I've not actually heard of him myself. They grabbed him for 12.25 million. So if you want an attacking midfielder, this guy looks like he turns into one hell of a player. Now that is the 3rd season completed. We're going to skip forward now to the next season, see if Totti's reign can continue on the top of the Serie A. So 4th season for AS Roma now that we're going to look at. And first things first, I don't kind of want to ruin it by searching it, so I'll do it the long way round. And wow, Roma finished all the way down in 5th place after winning 2 straight Serie A titles and successful campaigns. Have lost 10 games this season, which has let them down quite a lot, finishing 16 points behind eventual winners Juventus. No Roma players featuring in the top 3 for any stats at all, and Totti is still the manager despite finishing that far down. He has got a contract extension till 2023, so he's still going to still be in charge of the club probably until then. But what happened? They only brought in 4 players this season. Rodrigo De Paul from Valencia, who is an attacking midfielder or a striker. They brought him in for 8.5 million. And Alex Telles from Napoli. Thomas Callas and Kirchi came in on frees as well, who left this season. Gilberto, Nicola Lilli, who didn't really play much since signing, and Quarter, no one really of note anyway. So not much huge transfers this season. Champions League knocked out in the first knockout round again, this time to Man City. Lost out in the quarter-final of the TIM Cup and won the Super Coppa in the end. So they were media predicted second. Started off pretty brightly it seems and just dipped towards the end of the season despite not losing any of their last 5 games. Let's quickly run through all of these again. In the league, I've actually still got 1 game left to play. I'm pretty sure they should still finish in the same place, so I might have to holiday that. But they're going to still finish in the same place regardless anyway, so I'll just cover it now. It started off pretty brightly, but really bad patch here to be honest. If you see just there, only winning 2 games in the whole of this spell. From the start of November, even this game here towards the end of January. Mid-season blues really. and didn't really recover from that. Champions League group, they had Partizan Belgrade. Jeez, they won 8-0 in one of their Champions League games. What a win. They were 3-0 up in 8 minutes. Jeez, and they had Dortmund and Galatasaray. Got through to Man City, who absolutely annihilated them. What a win. TIM Cup, beat Sampdoria 2-1, then lost to Udinese 1-0. Of course, they won in the Europa League this season. And then they beat Sampdoria 2-1 in the Super Cup. So not an ideal season for Francesco Totti in charge of Roma this term. We're going to check out one more season before we end the video. He's done okay so far, a lot better than possibly than I expected, especially in some of the experiments where managers have left, you know, very quickly. He's doing very well, so we'll skip forward and cover one more year. Final season where we're going to take a look at Francesco Totti as AS Roma manager. In the Serie A, Roma finished back in third place, kind of back to reality for them now, with 71 points, a huge 20 points though behind eventual winners Juventus, who are untouchable really. De Paul, I think that is got the most assists this season from AS Roma, so we'll have a quick look at that. Totti's still in charge, Gerson's still the key player, and Strootman has now been promoted to captain rather than Nangolan, who's been dropped to vice captain. Transfers this year, they've signed £14.35 million worth of players. Most expensive one being Alisson from Internacional, brought in Mitchell Weiser from Bayern Munich, Julien Puel from Toulouse, then Nunzio Ragonesi from Cesena, Renato Donizetti from Cruzeiro, Mohamed Rajab from Zamalek, Yusuf Labiad from Sevilla, and Ronan Barbier on loan from PSG as well. A couple of players went out on free. Seydou Doumbia, who finished one of the top goal scorers a couple of years ago, he left. Salah also went on a free to Inter, the league rivals. So Kim Jin-soo, a player he signed, he went to Shakhtar Donetsk for £8 million. And Leonardo Paredes went to Genoa 3.7. Nicolo Toffanari went to Pro Vercelli, and Giuseppe Monguzzi went to Sassuolo. So this season knocked out in the group stage of the Champions League, knocked out in the quarter-final of the Europa League. It's first they've got in those competitions, and locked out in the semi-final of the TIM Cup. They drew their last 5 games. They were up there all season, to be fair, so it looked like they had a very, very consistent season. They were only top for one match week of the season. We checked the schedule though the last time for this episode, and we'll see how consistent they were, picking up rare wins, and I think draws are the main downfall this season, which hasn't really happened to Roma before. But those last 5 could have beat Torino, could have beat Sassuolo. I mean, there could have been any of those last 5, to be honest. A couple more draws dotted around where they could have picked up wins, and it could have been such a different season for them because they didn't lose many this year. The Champions League group was Arsenal, Atletico Madrid, and Dinamo Zagreb. Probably right for them to finish third in the end, to be honest. Beating Zagreb twice and getting 1 draw against Atletico Madrid, but Arsenal got the double over them in the end. TIM Cup, which they finished in the semi-finals of. They lost to Carpi on the away goals, beating Torino in extra time, beating Juventus, so that was a big victory for them. The Europa League, they lost in the quarter-final. They only lost 3-2 on aggregate to Marseille. They beat Sevilla and Fenerbahce along the way as well, so decent in the end for them. And they weren't in the Super Cup this year round. Best players this season before we end off the video. 56 appearances for Gerson. 18 goals for Rodrigo De Paul, closely followed by Gerson. So he looked like he was a huge player this season. To show me where he played, I'm sure I can find out here. He played all at attacking midfield, so he had a very, very good season as an attacking midfielder. Just wondering if he was going to be playing as a striker at all. He got the most assists as well. A huge season for him, and most man of the matches. I'm pretty sure he would have got, the best average rating as well. He looks like he was a very, very good signing at 26 years of age. So guys, that is the end of the episode. We have checked out how Francesco Totti, who had a bit of a taster as the manager of AS Roma, a club he's been at since the start of his playing career. His reputation has now grown to 4 stars, and I'm sure bigger teams such as Barca, Real Madrid's, the Man United's, possibly the Chelsea's would be knocking on the door if we extended this experiment out a little further. But you've had a little taster of possibly how it would be if he retires and turns to be manager. So if you haven't already, please do drop a like on the video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new for more content and experiments. Of course, you can suggest any experiment that you want me to try out as well. I'm very happy to take some ideas on board. And follow me over on my Twitter, which is @DaveAsAPartyFM. All the links can be found in the description down below. And until then, guys, I'll see you all very soon.